Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Kevin Creatives. Check out my custom Master Grade Mark II Gundam. This one I'm very excited for. I'm a big fan of the Mark II design. It does a lot of things right for me, and I'm a big fan of Master Grades, probably more so than any other grade, just because the size is really nice. It's really convenient to be able to paint pieces at this scale. I don't know if anyone else feels that kind of way about it when it comes to the size, but the reason that I like a Master Grade is the size of the pieces just are much easier to work with in terms of painting and all that. Because I know that there are tons more parts to paint that kind of can add its own type of stress, but when it comes to masking and all that, it's a lot easier when the parts are bigger and easier to handle. Same thing with the tape that you have to use and all kinds of factors. But let's get into it. So when I look at this kit's paint job, I pretty much just think of, for the most part, the new Gundam. This is basically just a proto new Gundam, and that's kind of how I wanted to go about it. So I gave it the standard white, navy blue, yellow, and then the red for the Mark II. I believe the Mark II also has blue feet. I've seen it with blue feet before. I prefer just to stick to the red. I figured, it still have that ties to the original Gundam, the RX78, the Mark I. We got a little bit of both. I like how it's kind of in the middle between the original RX78 and the new Gundam. You can definitely see the distinction between those three kits. Like, I can line up the three Gundams and I can see the trajectory of where they were going with the design. So that's really cool. I really appreciate that. One big draw to me was the Vulcan headset. I think that's super cool looking. I don't know if it's practical or anything like that, but the fact that he just has this additional headset thing with the antenna sticking out of it, coming along the sides of his head, I really like it. I'm a big fan. I love that look. I wish more designs did that. I know the Barzam has that as well. I think that's kind of it. So this was the first kit that I was like, all right, I'm gonna mask the shit out of it. I'm gonna find every little detail I can think of that's gonna be shown on this kit, and I'm gonna mask it off, and I'm going to paint it in gunmetal, I'm going to paint it in silver, I'm going to make it look flashy and give it some sparkle. And I think I did everything in lacquer paints, and then there's a couple of spots that I did enamels. But I'm really happy with the results, and I learned a ton, especially since this was, like I said, the first time I was doing it. I learned so much. I will say there are some gunmetal bits around the shoulder area where the decals, you can see, they go around it. Those I gave up on. I was going to mask them off and paint them. I said, screw it, and I just took a brush, painted them in. I put a little bit of gunmetal in there, and I said, perfect. I do wish that I had mixed in some silver into that gunmetal and didn't make them so dark, but that I did just say screw it and use a hand painted brush to put them in, and I think it came out pretty much perfect, and that kind of made me realize, okay, maybe we don't have to mask off every teeny tiny microscopic detail. Maybe there are some details that we can hand paint, and I'm glad that I was able to learn that from this kit. So for the weapons, I typically like to use metallic paints for them, but in this case, I decided to try out doing the opaque colors with just some metallic details just to have it match the kit a bit more, and I'm actually really happy with it. I think the bazooka came out best of all. I don't really ever have him pose with it, but it does look great, I will say. The gold and the silver bits combined with the decals and the opaque colors and the shading really look nice, especially on this bazooka, just because it comes with all these different colors compact into one, so that's something I really like about it. The backpack on this thing looks so great. I love this backpack with the quadruple thrusters and the vents at the top with the beam sabers plugged in. It's just working for me. I think that looks really great aesthetically, and that was another really big draw for why I like this design. This backpack just looks so great. There's even these varnish tubes that come on the side of the backpack as well as the back of the knees. I tried painting them for the back of the knees. Not so great. So I spray painted them with lacquer paint and I let them dry and everything, but I guess this material that it's made out of doesn't adhere well with paint, so it kind of just rubbed off in my hand. Like the left back of the knee is completely missing all the color in the paint. It's supposed to be like, I think, copper, and then the right side has it mostly, but it's like faded. It looks bad. It's not great. This was the first kit that I decided to try out water slide decals. I was very happy with the results. I wasn't sure what to expect. I figured it was going to be really difficult. They're definitely not all perfect. I'm just looking at one right now in the back of the shoulder that is totally misaligned. It was my first try and I'm very happy. For the most part, everything came out pretty crisp and it looks great. I didn't go too crazy. I think I bought some just third-party eBay decals and then just kind of decided on how I was going to do it myself. There was instructions that had stickers. I did sort of use that. I knew I didn't want to use all of them. I'm not a big fan of overcrowding kits with stickers and decals and all that, so I was just very selective. Typically, each part I'll put on a max of like 2 2 decals, maybe 3, but probably 2. So in terms of the paints that I use for this kit, I would say I'm mostly happy. I think the navy bluish color came out great. I think the white came out exceptionally good. This one I was very happy. I was having trouble with getting my consistencies on the white. Sometimes I would have some parts darker than others. This one seems to be pretty overall balanced. I don't see any real spots that I'm like, okay, that part looks more gray than it does white or anything like that. But in terms of the red and the yellow, the balance is a little off. I will say the red is not quite what I want it to be. It's a bit more pink. I don't know. It's got more of a pastel feel to it. And then the yellow is a bit too vibrant. I don't know. There's something out of whack between the yellow and the red. The red feels a little bit too pink and the yellow feels a bit too orange, I think. Nothing too terrible. It's not a big deal. It's just a personal thing. I just feel like after everything was said and done, I was like, the red and the yellow is kind of throwing things off. Overall, so good. I tried doing all the little camera lenses in a fluorescent green. I was hoping that would pop a bit more rather than the metallic green, because sometimes the metallics can blend in, especially on these darker color parts. The metallics can kind of blend in a bit more. So I figured, all right, let's try it in a fluorescent and see if that pops. It looks okay. It kind of just looks like I just did bright green as a color, which isn't bad, but not quite what I'm going for. I think what I should have done is maybe added a white or even that yellow that I did for the Shining Gundam. Just a little something to give it some layers. That's really what I think this needed. It wasn't necessarily a brighter color. Maybe I just needed to add in some layers to give it a more glowing vibe, as well as maybe even giving it a clear coat of gloss just to give it kind of that glassy shine to it. Maybe that's what it needed. Something to think about. So there's some really cool pistons that they have in the ankles that they would do with these 2.0 kits. Sometimes they do them now, not very often. I feel like if it had 2.0 in the box, you would typically see pistons like this. And I decided to make the upper part of them red and then the bottom part silver just to give it a little bit of pop. It's something you don't really see too much just because they're way down there in the leg, but when you do see it, it's a nice little detail to catch. Same thing with the silver on the sides of the leg. I could have just left that all in gunmetal, but I decided to give it a couple little silver accents just to kind of mix things up a bit, break it up. I love the insides of the thrusters on this one, so I did it with a metallic red. I think what I ended up might have doing actually is I painted up the thrusters in the gunmetal color. Then I just did the insides of the thrusters in silver. Just very carefully went around the inner rim and then went over it again in, I think, clear red. I think I just did clear red over the silver, and that looks pretty sharp. I like that. It really does pop, and it's a small detail that I think really adds to any thruster effect, any thruster bells. I went ahead and painted the inside of the shield with just a standard gunmetal color. It looks great, nothing crazy. You don't ever really see the inside of the shield, so I kind of stopped doing it after this, but hey, why not? It's there. I don't even know if you're going to see it in the video, if you can even tell. If that's something that you're into, hey, I went ahead and took care of it. So I do actually have a couple more of these Mark II Master Grade 2.0s in my backlog just because I don't know why. I bought 3. I had this whole grand plan to have 2 Titan versions and 1 AEUG version. I don't know what I was thinking. 2 would have been enough. 1 Titan, 1 regular, whatever. But I have 2, so I figured, all right, this thing has a pretty solid inner frame, pretty unique. And the way the armor bits attach is you can have like half this kit without the armor and then show off that really cool inner frame, which isn't always the case. So it's cool that this one does it, and I figured since I've got the extra one, I'll probably do that one day where I'll just have half of the inner frame exposed in a nice hanger base display diorama. I think that'd be really cool. So just getting back to those water slide decals, once again, I don't like to add too many of them to the kit. I think just having the logos looks pretty cool, and then a few caution markings to go with the kit just to break things up, as always, just to have some diversity throughout it. I basically believe in having a little bit of everything, so I like having shading, but not too much shading. I want it to be pretty subtle. I like having my water slide decals, but I don't want to have them all over everywhere where you just don't know where to look. Just like I said, logos and a few caution markings. And then for the metallic bits, same thing. I select out some spots here and there that we can paint up with gold or silver accents. And then there you go. I just kind of just pick spots that would work and then put them all together into one cohesive kit. I even went ahead and painted the vents on the insides of the shoulders. I think they look pretty good. Those were originally supposed to be just yellow, and I debated on whether or not I should just leave them as fully yellow vents, but I thought, you know what? Let's just leave the border yellow, and then the inside being that gunmetal really does make a difference. I'm very happy that I went ahead and did that. It sticks out nice enough just for me. So this kit came out in 2005 and is beginning to show its age, which I don't think is necessarily a bad thing. I really do like taking older kits and just seeing how much work I can put into them to bring out all of the potential, because as the years go on, we always come up with newer and better ways to do things, but if you take that modern thought process and apply it to an older design, you get a really cool outcome. That being said, I wouldn't mind a 3.0 of this kit. I could definitely see a version Kotoki in the future. I feel like the Verkaz kind of lend themselves to being more broken up and panel lined, and the Mark II seems like it goes in that direction. I feel like there's a lot of broken up segments in the legs and arms and the backpack and the chest. There's just a lot of potential there that I could definitely see Kotoki putting in some work. And the reason I say that this kit is a bit dated is because if you look at things like the Witch from Mercury line, you can really see that these days things are much more streamlined. They're a lot cleaner in their look, and the Mark II is a bit bloated and cartoony. I love my chunky model kits. It's just interesting to see if they did it today, how would they go about it. So anyways guys, thanks for tuning in. I hope I gave you inspiration, and I hope in return you'll give me some of your own. I love taking other people's ideas and just putting them to work and seeing what I could do. It's fun to learn. Alright, see ya.